Welcome to the Haven Community Conversation Podcast, where we talk about life, faith, and everything in between. Hi, Zane.
Hi.
Happy to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me with you.
In today's episode, I'm actually interviewing kid number 1. This is my oldest son, Zane, for those who don't know him. And we are going to start with your favorite musical artist. Who is it and why?
Oh man, I don't think I can narrow it down to one. That's hard for me. I think like a lot of people like out of the early '90s grunge era is where I think I resonate with the most. So kind of I think like Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder are two of them. But then I also like modern blues. I like Hozier a lot. I like John Mayer, I think he's great too. So yeah, so you kind of mix those two. That's kind of where you get my music taste.
I wonder where you get the grunge influence.
I wonder
Who it could be. You're currently learning the guitar. Mm-hmm. What was the first song that you learned on the guitar?
The first full-length song I learned on guitar, and it was too hard for me to learn first. I probably should have started lighter, but I learned Cherry Wine by Hozier. That's a really good song. I love that song. I love everything about that song, and I especially love the guitar part of that song. So it's a super fun song to play.
Right?
Very hard. For somebody who every Hozier song is hard, but for somebody who's just beginning guitar, yeah,
You just
it took me a year.
something and you were like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit it.
Yeah, it took me a year to learn that song all the way.
I wonder how many people started off with like Stairway to Heaven. I wonder
Yeah.
how many of them just started.
I'm sure some did. I
zealous.
couldn't play Stairway to Heaven if I tried.
It was zealous.
Yeah.
But you love music. Mm-hmm. Would you say you love music or movies more? I'm actually interested in this question because I'm not sure what you're going to say.
Man, that's a terrible question. I think not in that way. Not in that way. Not in the way that it was formatted.
That was a terrible question. Jeez, who came up with that?
No, I think music is definitely. Is. Yeah.
So
I think it was more obvious, and but I love film, so. Yeah, but it is music. If I had to never watch a movie again, I couldn't never listen to a song again or like my favorite artist again. So yeah, music.
Music is cathartic.
Yeah.
Takes you to a different place.
I
Helps you
agree.
escape.
Yeah.
That stuff is hard.
Yeah. So I mean, so does film.
Yeah.
I love going to the movies, but I think if I had to pick, I'd pick music for sure.
And you can't watch a movie in the car. You shouldn't watch a movie in the car. P.S.
People do.
But you can listen to epic music and sing to your own ability in the car.
I cannot drive anywhere without having music on.
Yes.
So yeah, that's.
Well, wait until you get in the working field one day. Mm-hmm. I know you're already in the working field, but like you get your 40-hour week job and you just come home and you turn the sound off and you're just zoning all the way home because it's been a day.
Yeah.
You ever have one of those yet?
Oh, I have those every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me about your current job. What do you do?
I work at Chick-fil-A. I just got promoted to team lead, so I'm a team lead at Chick-fil-A. It's kind of lower level management, I suppose. I've been working there for 3 years in January, so 2.5 years at this point. But I've been working there for that long, and I think, it's pretty, it's Chick-fil-A. I love it. I love I love the people there, but it's putting food in bag.
Yeah.
But I get to lead, and I get to have that opportunity to lead and work with people and kind of learn the business side of things a lot too. And I'm very thankful for my job. Thankful for my job.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you have learned now that you've been in the workforce? Because you had 2 jobs before you came on to Chick-fil-A. But what would you say is the biggest asset that you've learned from Chick-fil-A?
I think a lot of it's endurance. Of course, I played football too, and I think most of like my endurance, kind of endurance education, I suppose, came from football. But I think a lot of it has to do with this too, kind of knowing that you have long hours, and especially as like a leader, you got to push through. in those cases. So I think in that case, but I think I've learned a lot of emotional intelligence / maturity from Chick-fil-A and kind of moving up in leadership.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I've learned a lot of that, and I've learned in and out of work friendship and how those operate. You know, and there's, you know, a lot of other things that I've learned that I'm very thankful for. Yeah, teamwork. Yeah, I think, especially with Chick-fil-A. Yeah, that's a good one. It's just teamwork. It's because we just have so many. We have a lot of people who work there, especially for a fast food job. Sometimes it's so much I can't walk around. You know,
you're stepping
drive-through
all over
cockpit.
each other.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah, we have a lot of people there.
One of the things that I have noticed about you is it sparked this interest in supervising and leading people and learning how to lead people and leading from the trenches, which, you know, in my history, that's my favorite part of leadership is leading from the trenches. And all that they put into it, and having you guys read books and you have to test and really study for those things to show that you're capable and you're ready, and they kind of undergird and teach you at each level how to lead, which is really amazing. Can't speak
no, I love that. I'm very thankful for
that.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for my leaders who kind of taught me that, and they, you know, take the time to teach you that, you know,
and foster that.
Kind of take a good amount of time to do that. So yeah, I'm thankful for that for sure.
That's good. Okay, this one's a really serious question.
Okay.
Which one do you think is the most rewatchable? Friends?
Okay.
The Office? King of Queens?
You know, I'm watching through King of Queens right now, and I love it. I love it so much.
So much.
I really do. I think it's the least rewatchable, though. I don't think I'll go back to it for a while, just because it's really repetitive.
Yeah.
But I think the repetitiveness about that one is good. It's, you know, charming. You know, you know, it is what it is. Kevin James and I forget her name.
I can't remember her name.
But you know, they have great chemistry together, and they do a really great job. But I think it's a really repetitive show, but it's so funny. I don't care. But I think that for that reason, it's the least rewatchable, and for other people, that might be the reason it's most rewatchable. But like that's so hard because Friends and The Office are like the two most rewatchable shows in the entire world.
That's exactly why I gave it to you, because I knew you'd have a hard time choosing.
Friends.
Friends.
I'll pick Friends for now. That might change in the future.
Is it one of those that when you're just kind of stressed or you just want to unwind, it's so easy to turn it on and
well, same with The Office, because every character works. You know, with each other. I think you know. I think they all have great chemistry together. I think Friends and The Office are like the two epitome of like good mood shows. You know, but also have depth, and you know they tackle hard things too. So
I love the fact that sometimes when you come home from work and you're sitting there and you're watching a show and you're eating and you have your earbuds in, and then I can hear you just haul off and belly laugh. I know that you've seen that same episode probably 40 times, but it's just like you watch it like it's the first time you've ever watched it and laugh just as hard as you did the first time.
Some episodes I do,
They're so great. Well, let's go ahead and start off in prayer, and then we'll get to the good stuff.
Let's do it.
Ready? Lord, we just thank you so much for being in this room. Thank you for being in this atmosphere with us, Lord, and for allowing this time, carving out space in all of our lives to have this time to commune with you and to tell your story, Lord, because ultimately this whole thing is about your story and the story that you're developing in us, Lord. And I ask that you continue to do a good work, Lord. I know he's my kid, but you know this kid and you know him better than I do. And Lord, I ask that you would continue to do a good work in him, Lord, and that you would lead him and guide him and raise him up to be the man of God you want him to be. Lord, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for anyone who is watching this, Lord, and that you bless their lives through it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
In your 19 years on the planet, you have already dealt with some hardship. What would you say out of high school and endurance and all those things that we talked about? before. What is a lesson that you got that was both, it's bittersweet, something that was, it was a great lesson and a life lesson that you learned, but it was a hard lesson?
Oh, there's a lot of those. I mean, I don't think with like hardship, I think I've been through some hardship, but I like not in the sense of how other people have been through hardship, of course. I think I've been through some, maybe not lighter hardship, but different, I guess. I think most of mine's been through mental health and kind of finding myself through mental health, I suppose. But yeah, I guess with kind of like my battle with my mental health and I think identity, finding my identity, who I am, who God says I am, and everything in between. I think yeah, I think that's been kind of like the lessons that I've learned. It's like I'm slowly starting to, and this is something that everybody deals with, it's not, foreign to anybody trying to find who they are and their identity, especially
Right.
at my age, and kind of going through high school years and teenage years. I mean, that's normal. That's everybody. But I think with my, at the time, horrible mental health, and kind of those struggles, I think it made it much harder because my brain and mind would tell me that I was different than who I thought I was or who I thought God was saying I was, So I think kind of being able to drown out what needs to be drowned out and listening to what I need to listen to and kind of finding that throughout my life. And still a work in progress for sure. I think is all, I think that's what I'm learning is exactly that is, finding things out. I'm a very curious person. I'm very, very skeptical person, which kind of is hard with faith, is I'm a huge skeptic. But I think, I think that in a way is a very good thing, being a skeptic.
Well, I think the thing about being a skeptic, and you can agree or disagree with me, is that by the time that you've worked it from all angles, you have a better understanding from it because it's not blind faith that you're dealing with. Like you've dissected it and looked at it from 50 different ways and come to a conclusion on your own.
Yeah.
So along that side of mental health, for those who don't know, what do you struggle with?
Oh, OCD. I have a diagnosed OCD. And the reason I say diagnosis is I don't like self-diagnosis.
Yeah, right, sure. I got you.
But yeah, so I always have to say that whenever I tell people I have OCD, is that it is diagnosed, I promise.
You're like, I'm not being funny.
Yeah. Yeah,
like the least fun game ever.
Right, no, it is. This is the least fun game ever. Yeah, I have diagnosed OCD, and I struggle with symptoms of anxiety.
Yeah.
Much better now than it used to be in kind of early high school, even mid high school. But yeah,
Yeah, I remember when we were having that conversation with a friend of mine, Heather, that I grew up with, that was one of the earliest childhood cases of OCD. And you and I were talking to her on the phone, and you had the opportunity to interview her and ask her questions because at that point you had figured out that was probably what you were dealing with, but just needed somebody to bounce it off of.
Yeah.
And I remember when she said you were asking about medications because you were really nervous about getting on medications for it. And she said, well, when you take the medications, it's kind of like a lubrication for your brain. You don't get stuck on one thought. You get to transition to other thoughts. And I remember just watching your countenance kind of relax, like, oh man, that'd be so great.
Yeah.
And whereas you don't necessarily lean on medications anymore, you've learned some really excellent strategies to help yourself, and that's just from your mom looking in of watching the change that you've gone through with how your OCD has changed and how you have combated a lot of it. Not to say that it doesn't morph over your lifespan, but just watching you attack it from all angles and really try to work it in a way that works for you. Yeah. So congratulations. I'm very proud
Thank you.
that you've worked through a lot of that. So along those same lines of you being a skeptic, what do you feel are some of those things that your faith is developing because of your skepticism, because of those things that you've worked through? Where do you feel like faith has really, I guess your skepticism of going through all that and kind of coming around to seeing God in it?
Yeah, no, everything. Yeah, I
You're like,
think
everything,
all
all
of
of
it,
it.
all of it. I'm skeptic of all of it. You know, in a good way. I don't want to sound like I'm, still in a
No, but
place.
people
Yeah,
need those real conversations, so
yeah, yeah,
air them,
yeah. No, yeah. I've always, no, I haven't always been. I was born into the faith. Dad's a pastor. You're a devout Christian. I was born into the realm of devout Christianity. So that's all I knew. And so growing up, I just thought, that's what it is. God is real. The Bible is true. That's that.
Yeah.
And then y'all would kind of let me. Y'all would let me ask questions. Y'all would let me not counter argument, but ask what counter arguments would be
Sure.
for Christianity, and you'd be honest with me. You'd be like, okay, well, some people don't believe that God exists at all, and that
Right.
we just this all happened by chance. And I was like, okay, well, and then I looked at that, and then and then you told me about other religions. You helped me learn about other religions. Of course, along with school, I learned mostly about religion, other religion from school, and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, from that, in early high school, I deconstructed. If somebody doesn't know what that means, it just means that you step back and you kind of looked at your faith and you questioned it, which I think actually is a very healthy thing to do if you do it in a healthy way.
Sure.
So not everybody does. I certainly didn't. I became an agnostic for it. I didn't. I never necessarily had an instance where I don't really believe this anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
I did, but I was agnostic. I wouldn't follow any of it, I suppose. Not necessarily that I wouldn't follow any of it, but I didn't align myself with it. I was
Yeah.
like, man, sometimes when I pray, I'm like, I'm talking to a brick wall. I'm not talking to anybody, This is all, whatever. I had those thoughts all the time, and at one point, they kind of taken me. But in that time, though, in the time that I would say that I was agnostic because I was actively searching for a truth,
Which is the definition of agnosticism.
and agnosticism, right?
Yeah.
I remember praying this prayer. I prayed, God, please don't let go of me, because I was really scared. That
Yeah.
I mean, you never a Christian, especially born into the
Sure.
faith. That's scary, stepping back from the faith, and saying, man,
I need to
don't know about
evaluate and
this.
know why I know what I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that was very, very scary for me, and I go through little deconstruction phases even now. But I mean, I am more dead set than I've ever been.
Yeah.
In Christianity, I still have doubts.
Yeah.
Just like everybody else. I think that comes with faith, though. I think that's a part of faith, is because you don't know, so you have doubts. So and that's scary. But there are times now that I feel God closer, than ever. So. Yeah, I think overall, I think skepticism has been like the building blocks of my faith, and trying to figure that all out. I never kind of looked at it as like there was no maker, because I looked at the world, everything that we have, how everything, language,
Sure.
the fact that there's so many different languages, the fact that we have trees, plants, people, and the fact that we have a solar system that aligns perfectly with the sun that gives us life right there in the middle. I never said, I don't think there's a maker. I
Yeah.
always thought there was a maker, but what my struggle was more with, okay, is the Bible right?
Sure.
So,
Sure.
and, obviously I was like, maybe I'm wrong about that too. So, I was skeptic about it all, but, really stepping back and kind of listening to arguments for the faith, arguments
Sure.
against the faith,
Yeah.
and then I kind of was able to align myself, and I think that prayer helped, the don't let go of me prayer
Yeah.
that I had, because I was so scared. I think God really held on to me,
Yeah.
through that, and he brought me back.
Yeah.
But lets me ask those questions
Sure.
and, lets me doubt, because he does that with everybody. I mean, he's not
He's
physically.
not afraid of your questions.
Right. So yeah, that's my skepticism
It's a
story.
good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think a lot of people walk through life afraid of the unknown, and so they never learn to ask questions. And if you never ask the questions, how do you know that you have the answer?
Yeah.
How do you know that you even have the right answer?
Right.
So
That's what scared me.
yeah,
Is,
for sure.
I kind of refuse to just blindly walk something or blindly follow something,
Right.
walk with something.
Because what I find is that when you walk through something and your faith is not solidified and you walk through something difficult, it has a way of shaking that foundation.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not a strong enough foundation,
Oh, yeah.
it'll rock you.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, no, that.
And I think some of that culminated too, would you agree that like with the development of the OCD and like some anger at that and like, where were you? Why do I have it?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
then kind of working that out with God.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a big part of it. I think, well, I think every person with OCD I've ever met has been skeptical.
Yeah.
Me personally,
Sure.
I might meet an OCD person who's like an obsession to follow something that they don't
Sure.
want to. I don't know. OCD is weird, but
Like OCD,
it's a strange thing. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I was really mad. I was angry that I was, having the thoughts that I would have, that I would have the obsessions, the compulsions that I would have. Obsessive compulsions, sorry. That all, it angered me, and I don't know, I didn't know why, if God was real, why he would, and if the Bible is saying what he thinks, what I think it says, why he would do that to me,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
through the faith and like understanding, kind of what God, and I'm still really trying to understand God's character. That's kind of my journey right now, is understanding God's character, and that it doesn't always align with worldly character, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've struggled with for sure. And that I've more kind of conquered the scientific part of it and the historical part of it. But now is like more God's character, and I understand that God does things for a reason. I'm not a believer that everything happens for a reason. I'm not. I don't think that's the case. But
And don't use that with people.
no, I think
Don't
that's
use that with people who are going through bad stuff.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
say
like,
everything happens for a reason. They don't want to hear
I
that.
have friends right now who are going through something. I have a friend right now who's going through something terrible, and I would never tell her that. This is God's doing
Right.
this for a reason.
Chin up.
Chin
God's
up.
doing this. Everything happens for a reason.
And maybe, he has some sort of reason for it,
Yeah.
or maybe he has.
He's working it out for his
Maybe he's
good.
working it out. I mean, I think God can take things that are terrible that didn't necessarily, he didn't do that for a reason,
Yeah.
but I think he can, take horrible things that he didn't cause to happen, that he didn't make happen, but make something good out of it.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's what I believe as far as that's concerned. So I don't think God gave me OCD
To punish you.
to punish me. I don't think that he did it for the reason of that because he wants me to suffer. No, I think that, I don't think he gave me OCD. I don't think he gave me OCD at all, but I think he's used OCD to help me and to benefit me. This is weird to say, but I'm thankful for my OCD in some ways.
You're like, in some ways. In some ways.
There's little things that I'm thankful for that OCD has kind of taught. I don't know if that's the right word
You're
to
like,
use.
has it taught me
Yeah, I
or
don't
has
know.
it conditioned me?
Yeah.
What is it? But
Yeah.
I can see that.
I'm thankful for some of the things that's kind of engraved in me,
Yeah.
I suppose, is a good way to say that.
So it's, when we were talking about OCD, we also talk about it kind of being the gift that keeps on giving sometimes. And so tell me about the job field that you chose and how that came to pass. And how it intersected OCD in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the goal right now is I really want to be a pilot. I would love to fly planes. That's so cool. I'm really excited to get started. I'm enrolled for a flight program, a pilot program, professional pilot program in the spring. So I'm gonna go through this fall semester and doing just some classes. But in the spring, I'm starting a pilot program, and I'm really excited for it. But the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, they're huge on mental health, and I love that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. That doesn't anger me at all. I'm huge on mental health regulation. So I'm glad they're doing that, but it was a pain in the butt nonetheless.
Yes.
To do that, because my OCD isn't. I might have made it sound like my OCD is pretty extreme. It's, it's not. It's moderate to light. And that's what I was. Moderate to mild is actually what she diagnosed me with, mild to moderate depending on situation. It's exactly what she told me whenever I got diagnosed. I remember that because I remember it brought me peace. But with that, I was like, man, this is so mild. Why am I, why I had to go through all of these hoops to do this. So as a pilot, you have to get your a certain class of medical certificate, and I just went for the highest one to see if I can get it, so there won't be any problems in the future. Turns out there were problems.
Problems in the near future.
Yeah, problems now, and it took months and months to get that figured out. I would be starting in the fall had there not been that. But I've kind of been able to hurdle the first part of that, and there's still going to be stuff in the future that I'm going to have to do. But as my OCD gets better throughout the year, I mean, it really is. I haven't been on medication for a year.
Yeah.
And I'm doing great. I really am. I'm doing good. I still have OCD, but I'm able to control it, if that's the right word for it.
Well, you've learned a lot of strategies and...
Yes, coping mechanisms, I suppose.
Yes.
But I am not overcome by this, anymore. So, so I am not nervous for that part of flying.
Yeah.
I'm not worried, okay, is my OCD going to come in?
Yeah.
And no, I don't have that issue at all.
Somebody had made a comment. They were like, I would think that if you had OCD, it'd probably make
you a better pilot, right?
You're a little bit more obsessive of everything going
I honestly think that I will be. I think I'm going to be a very safe pilot,
You're like, I'm going to check everything 11 times.
I'm cautionary by nature, so I think if you in 20 years have a flight with me, it's going to be the safest freaking flight you're ever going to be on. I promise you. But,
you're going to land on a cloud.
Yes,
it's going to be so smooth.
It's going to be wonderful. Hopefully.
Well, I hope that happens, and I hope I get to be with you when you fly on a plane one day, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
So, in that same analytical thinking, you are your dad's child when it comes to that, and your analytical thinking. And
thank you, Dad.
How has that also played into the way you look at politics from different angles? So, you and your brother have far more advanced political conversations than your dad and I were even thinking about into adulthood.
Yeah.
So, and y'all have such great dialogue, you and your brother. Y'all both lean in different directions, but you listen to each other. And you listen to each other's dialogue, which you've heard us harp about it. But if you don't ever listen to another person's side of things, how will you ever know their point of view?
Right.
Everybody came to their conclusions because they have life events and things that have them or sway them one side politically. So the two of you are able to have such great conversations with that. How did you kind of spin your political view and how it evolves, and with that same analytical mindset?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, I think my thing that kind of just the way my mind works is I'm just very I try to be, and like it's like a goal of mine too, so I think I have some natural empathetic mindset. I think I kind of have that naturally, but like it's a goal of mine too. I think empathy is
it's
so
something
important.
you've fostered as well.
Yeah, that's one of my core values is empathy, is kind of looking at another human being's experience and understanding it, even if you don't necessarily agree with it wholeheartedly, but looking at that experience and saying, I get it, you know, and I understand why you'd want this, and I understand why you wouldn't want this, you know, but normally it's really through pain that I kind of really want to be empathetic, you know, kind of empathize with somebody, is if they're going through a lot of pain. So that's really where my entire political standing, I suppose, revolves around, is people, you know, and I want the best for people, but I want to see God work, you know, and I want to give him room to work, you know. So I think, you know, kind of analyzing what is logical, you know, through empathy, because I think there's like two different sides of it. You could look everything through logic and logic alone, and then you're just eliminating any human factor. You're just eliminating humanity, you know, and I've seen that so much, and it makes me so mad. But then on the complete opposite side, you can look way too far towards empathy, and then, you know, and kind of leave out any, you know,
room for logic
or law or order, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that both are good, which is why, you know, I kind of stand exactly where I do. I think that America's far too divided, and I think it's because we're looking at things from two very extreme standpoints, and that's not what I want for us, you know. I think that we could find more middle ground. I think we could find more understand. I think there's a lot more that we understand, or a lot more that we have in common than we think we do, I suppose. But you talk about being analytical. I think that's very important to know if this would work, or if this policy would work, if this policy wouldn't work, if this, you know, and I'm not a politician. I don't ever plan to be a politician. But I think, you know, as a voter, as a citizen, you know, I think and as somebody who cares about people and somebody who loves Jesus, you know, I think that is very important, you know, to look at things analytically and also look at things through the perspective of people. And debate about it, you know, talk about it, you know. That's something that our founding fathers wanted us to do, is debate and understand. So yeah, no, that's kind of where I've landed. I do lean a certain way, and I've kind of landed there because of all of those factors combined. You know, because I overthink those things. I overthink it all.
Montage of vectors,
Yes.
But what I love is, like, you and your brother still have, even though you're siblings, you and your brother have a lot of respect for each other's opinion.
Oh yeah.
And you really dialogue, which is an art form that's kind of become lost.
Yeah.
You know, is to be able to have the sophisticated nature of dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, and really be able to see each other's side, and I've seen you guys change each other's mind on a couple of factors, or made you think like, oh, I never really thought it from it in that perspective, and I just wonder, like, if we could just open dialogue more, how much we could listen.
How that could happen with the world.
Yeah.
You know, the
well,
nation.
I'll share a little story. I've told you this before, but I'll tell the general public too, is that I have a strong belief that people are either born with empathy or they learn it through personal experiences. It's not something that can be taught in a book. Can't teach somebody how to be empathetic. They just have to understand it for themselves. But you were, the day that I came home from my big surgery where I lost my voice, I had drainage tubes and a big, huge scar, and I was bandaged up and everything. And you were right before you turned 8 months old. In fact, that day that I came home from the hospital is when you took your first, like, you started crawling for the first time.
Wow.
And I had you in my lap, and you put your hand up, and you felt my padding, like all this stuff up here. And you just kind of looked at me, and you just laid your head
No.
on my chest. Yeah, it was like you knew something was different. And you were
Yeah.
not even 8 months old yet. Yeah, so
That's cool.
You've
I didn't know
definitely were born with copious amounts of empathy, and I think that will serve you well in your life. It will be both your cross and your crucible, but it will make you a better human.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
what I hope for.
Make
Yeah,
you
no,
a
I did
good
that.
human.
I don't know that happened. That's cool.
So, what has it been like growing up as a pastor's son? Because it's literally been your whole life.
No, it has been my whole life. I think so. I wasn't homeschooled. I went out to public school. That's not bashing homeschool. I have my issues with both public school and homeschool. So there's going to be pros and cons of both. But I think for me as a pastor's kid, I think it was important for me to go to public school personally. So I think that it hasn't necessarily been like as big of a part of my life as you might think. Because a lot of my friends probably don't even know that my dad is a pastor. I kind of say, oh yeah, my dad pastors a small church in Old Town Spring, and I didn't know, but
You're not blasting it on the evening news.
no, and it's not because I'm ashamed of it.
Yeah.
It's just that's what my dad does.
Yeah.
And I don't see somebody else
Sure.
blasting it.
Yeah.
But I think I have somebody to go to, with those really hard questions, that I was talking about earlier. I'm a skeptic. I'm very skeptical about, anything biblical or not biblical,
Yeah.
So going to my dad with questions and he really, I don't know if he thinks this or he believes this, but he really does kind of have an answer pretty quick.
Yeah.
And and it's not like my dad has all the answers.
Yeah.
Nobody does.
Yeah,
My dad
sure.
doesn't have all the answers. But he definitely, goodness, helped me through that,
Yeah.
and kind of what faith is. And he let me, the fact that, not all of my political views, we were talking about that, not all of my political views necessarily line up with his. Not all of my biblical views line up with his. I'm not, we don't line up in all theology
Sure.
or, philosophy or whatever. And I still have a lot to learn, of course, so that could change. But I think that he let me venture out in that way, in a healthy way. He let me venture out and find things out for myself and find my identity as a Christian in that regard. But also, I think he gave me honest answers, and really good ones. And I remember there have been multiple times from whenever I was a kid to whenever I was a teenager,
Yeah.
to where I just kind of felt peace after talking with him.
That's good.
There's a lot of times like that where I felt peace after talking to my dad because there's a reason why he does what he does. That guy's a biblical nerd. He really, he is.
Nerd.
He's a nerd when it
The
comes to
best
Bible.
kind of nerd.
And that, that to me is, I always say, it's definitely biased. I always say my dad's my favorite pastor. And that's definitely biased, But I really like the way that he thinks about things and that he's not so dogmatic about everything, and that he, he is open-minded, but also, strong on things that he believes, So and I think he gives really honest answers, and I think that he, he gives me peace in a lot of that way. So I think growing up as a pastor's kid didn't really overtake my. I know he was worried about that too. I know he was worried. He's talked to me about that kind of being a pastor would kind of overtake. No, not really.
We always wanted to have those check-in points with y'all to make sure that, like, y'all had healthy feelings around it and trying to create a safe space for you guys to ask questions and not feel like you were carrying the banner for the whole family. That would have been too hard and too much pressure for you guys.
Yeah. No, I never I never felt pressure from y'all's ministry. No, I can't remember a time where I did. Going to church was something that I did, and
it was a pattern. It was a routine.
It was a pattern, and I couldn't skip as many Sundays as I could.
As the general kid.
Right, because, I'm a part of a ministry family. You know, I was born in a ministry. You know,
Yes, you were.
so I think there, you know, there's been, I think mostly pros from being raised in a ministry family that I know that there are a lot of cons in being raised in a ministry family. And I've heard that from a lot of other people, but I don't think I've ever necessarily experienced that from myself because I think, you know, I think it was handled really well.
I have to hand that back over to your dad on that one because when a lot of people know this story, but when he was called to ministry, I did not feel like I was called to ministry.
Yeah.
And, you know, we went back and forth over that for a long time. And I just kept thinking of like my kids. Like I did not want my kids to be in a fishbowl.
Yeah.
And live in a glass house. That's just not what I wanted for y'all. But he's created an environment that allows us to be very flexible in that existence, you know?
So I just totally spilled water on myself.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
I had a hole in your lip.
I did.
But creating that space for both me and you guys to be able to have a fluid environment to grow up in and feel like you didn't have to be the model citizen and you could think it for yourself and you could develop your own ideas.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to hold any kind of potential
Yeah.
expectations from anyone in the church. Like,
Yeah. Because, you know, I'm not I'm not going into, at least I don't plan to right now, I don't plan to go into the ministry field. You know, I mean, I've always believed that you can go into ministry wherever you are, you know, so I think, you know, going into a career as a pilot, I think there's going to be definitely ministry.
you'll be praying a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your mom will be praying a lot.
I'll be praying a lot. But yeah, no, I think there's going to be ministry everywhere that I could use, but I'm not necessarily going full blown into ministry. And I never felt pressure to. So, and a lot of pastors' kids that I've talked to felt that way.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of pastors' kids.
Yeah, you do.
Coming from a pastor.
Per capita.
Coming from a pastor's kid. But, you know, they've all kind of felt some sort of, not all of them, but, you
Like
know, some of them.
expectation.
You know, some sort of expectation to kind of live up to what they are. Like they can't be a different person because of their parents' ministry, you know, and I think that's, you know, I feel like that's, you kind of lose yourself of identity and kind of being an individual yourself, you know, so I think that's super important. I mean, I think we belong to God for sure, but I think that God gave you your own thoughts, your own mind, your own beliefs, and different ways.
And your own
that
personhood.
You're your own person, so I've never felt like I was out of place. None of I had identity issues, and we've talked about that, but none of them came from being raised as a pastor's kid. I think most of the stuff that came out of me growing up as a pastor's kid, and this is not just because I'm talking to my mother, is I think it's been mostly pro. Yeah, mostly pros. So yeah.
I think that what you were alluding to earlier, not alluding to, but actually touched on was that your dad allowed you to ask those hard questions and gave you a safe space to do that. It's because he already had all those hard questions for himself.
Yeah.
You know, we've already wrestled through those, so allowing you guys to have the space to do that was important. You know, important for him, important for me, and we also did not develop our ministry in the same timing. Like mine was much slower and evolved in a different way than his, and God gets to use it every day.
Yeah.
So whatever he has planned for you and your ministry, you know, when I say ministry is what you do with your life and how you glorify God in it, is independent of us.
Yeah.
And at some point when you're raising your kids, you have to allow their faith to become their own faith.
Yeah.
Or not, and that's the crux, is that you raise them up in a way that that they should go, but that's not our responsibility.
Yeah.
We just have to give you over to the Lord and do what we can for you and pray for you the rest of the time. So allowing God to do his own independent work in you and realize that your ministry is independent of ours. So I'm very interested to see what you do with it.
Yeah. I'm excited too.
Yeah. If you had to think about one particular instance that resonated the most with you, that helped build the person that you are, do you have one of those yet? And I can rephrase the question too.
I mean, I think I know what you mean. I mean, I went through a bad heartbreak, you know. That was a big one for me. I kind of, it was heartbreak,
Yeah. It is what it is.
It
Very
is what it is.
appropriately
It
named,
sucked,
right?
and I went through that.
Very appropriately named.
So I think that was character building in some way. I think that was faith building in a lot of ways, because I definitely went to God after that, and kind of finding myself, because I kind of built myself around, this person, and I shouldn't have. That was dumb, and I was very obsessive, OCD does that. Yeah, so,
Shame. Yes.
So I think that was overall good for me. I'm not necessarily saying that I would relive it, but I'm glad it happened.
Don't want to do that
I
again.
wouldn't do it again, but I'm
Yes.
glad it happened. I think instances like a lot of things that happened with me in football. Oh, I suck at football. So I'm just going to
But how
throw that
many
out there.
years did you play, kid?
I played 6 years.
Yes,
and
you did.
Playing is a big word, I was basically in cheer, with my sideline talent, but
Your sideline talent was solid.
yeah, I had really good sideline talent. I really did. Yeah, no, that was I think that entire thing was faith building a lot too, because there's been a couple times where I was coached. And there's been a couple of times where I was like, what in the actual world are you doing? Get off our field, And it's like stuff like that. And, that breaks your heart too.
Sure.
Because sometimes, no, not all the times. Sometimes I was just completely incompetent and I wasn't paying attention, and that happened a lot too. But sometimes I was trying, a lot of times I was really trying. I just wasn't, for the sport, and I just wasn't kind of bought in the way I should have been.
Yeah.
To do it, but sometimes I wanted to, and I kind of wanted to reroute things,
Sure.
With football, and then I couldn't,
You trying to make yourself want it more?
Yeah, and it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But I am very thankful for my time in football. I'm thankful for all my coaches, especially. Those people kind of helped raise me in a way.
Yeah.
And even through mental health, I think they helped in a lot of ways. My coaches.
Okay, so as your mom, I've had a front row seat to your whole journey. When you think about your life so far, what are you most proud of?
And I think kind of the way I've learned, I guess, through experience. I think I think I've kind of learned open-mindedness, in many of the ways that I do. I think, kind of overcoming certain obstacles, especially mentally, I think has been a big one. I'm just kind of figuring myself out, I think, and I'm still in a work in progress with that, which is why it's such a hard question to answer. I guess overcoming obstacles that are coming my way, and there's going to be a lot more. So kind of learning from those and being able to do anything in the future.
You've definitely learned how to do some hard things.
Yeah.
And you've realized that you didn't die.
Yeah.
You did hard things, and it gave you encouragement to continue to do hard things in the future, Because some people think about the hard things, and they think so much about the hard things that it paralyzes them with fear.
Yeah.
And you've never really been like that. You've always learned to, I've seen you as a kid wrestle with fear, legit fear.
Yeah.
Probably OCD based kind of fear.
Sure. Yeah.
But watching you grow and learn to adapt and take that fear and make it your strength has been a huge encouragement for me to watching you. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and thank you so much for coming in and letting me interview you and ask you all the hard questions and make your brain rattle a little bit.
Yeah.
I get to have these conversations with you all the time, but the general public doesn't. So
Yeah.
I wanted them to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I love you so.
Love you too.
Bye. One of our presenters at work, he was presenting on pelvic floor exercises. It's a whole thing with stroke and like bowel and bladder continence and stuff like that. And
Welcome
he was
back
like,
to the Haven Community Conversations.
but
What were you talking about?
yes, but he was talking about you don't just clench your butt cheeks, and he shows this picture of Nacho Libre when he's got his butt cheeks
you guys,
stuck.
butt cheeks, dude.
And
Best
I
movie
was
of all time.
dying, and nobody else in the room was like even laughing. And I'm like, dude, that is hilarious.
Let's go back to the music over movies. I take that movie over any music or any other film I love that movie.
Okay, it's your turn. Do your best interpretation of your dad's intro to community conversations.
Okay. Yeah, the best way to start. Welcome back to the Haven Community Conversations, where we talk about faith, life, and everything in between. Today.
Oh, yes, that was good.